A black mother and her starving daughter scavenged rotten apples behind a stranger's barn when everything changed. Samuel Whitmore watched them through his window, torn between the safety of isolation and the danger of compassion in 1880s, Wyoming. The drought had already divided his community along racial lines, and harboring fugitive slaves could cost him everything. Samuel removed his coat and opened his door, knowing this single act of kindness would either save 3 lives or destroy them all. Samuel Whitmore stood in his doorway at dawn, rifle trembling in his weathered hands. 12 men on horseback surrounded his cabin like wolves circling wounded prey. Deputy Crawford sat tall in his saddle. His badge caught the first light. "You got 1 minute to send them out, Samuel." Inside, floorboards creaked. A woman's whispered, "Prayer." A child's muffled sob. Samuel's coat lay crumpled in the snow. Blood stained the wool dark red, the same coat he had offered 3 weeks ago when kindness seemed simple. "Or we're coming in," Crawford added. The wind carried the scent of smoke and fear. Samuel's finger found the trigger. His breath made small clouds in the frozen air. How had mercy led to this moment of reckoning? 3 weeks earlier, the blizzard came without warning. Snow fell thick as cotton, blanketing the Wyoming territory in silence. Samuel watched from his kitchen window as the storm swallowed his barn whole. The drought had lasted 8 months. His cattle grew thin. The well ran low. Winter promised death to anything already struggling. Movement caught his eye near the barn's shadow. 2 figures hunched against the wind. A woman and a small child picking through his discarded apple pile. Samuel set down his coffee. The figures were dark against the white snow. The woman held the child close. They ate the rotten fruit with desperate hunger. He knew what they were before he stepped outside. The danger they represented, the choice they forced upon him. The woman looked up when his boots crunched through the snow. Her eyes held no apology, only the hollow stare of someone who had stopped expecting kindness from the world. The child pressed closer to her mother. 8 years old, maybe. Her dress hung in tatters. Her lips were blue with cold. Samuel removed his coat without thinking. The wind bit through his shirt immediately. He held the wool toward them. "Come in." The woman studied his face, searching for deception, for the trap that always came. "Ma'am." He stepped back toward his door. "Storm's getting worse." She took the coat with careful hands, wrapped it around her daughter first. The child shivering, slowed. "Celia." The woman's voice was barely audible. "This is Mary." Samuel nodded toward his cabin. "I'm Samuel." They followed him inside. Celia's eyes cataloged every corner, every window, every possible escape route. Mary stayed pressed against her mother's side. The cabin felt different with them in it, warmer somehow, as if it had been holding its breath for years. Samuel poured hot coffee, added extra sugar to a 3rd cup for the child. Celia accepted hers with both hands wrapped around the warmth. "We're heading north," she said finally. Samuel waited for more. When it didn't come, he nodded. Long way to travel in winter. Not by choice. Mary sipped her coffee. Her eyes never left Samuel's face. Children learned early to read danger in a man's expression. "You can use the barn loft," Samuel offered, "till the storm passes." Celia's grip tightened on her cup. "We don't have money. Didn't ask for any." The fire crackled between them. Outside, the wind howled like something wild and hungry. "Why?" Celia asked. Samuel studied the flames. "Got no good answer for that." This next morning brought clear skies and bitter cold. Samuel found them in the barn before dawn. Mary was kneeling in the dirt, her ear pressed to the ground. "She's listening," Celia explained. Mary stood and pointed toward the far corner. "Water runs underneath. Deep down, but moving fast." Samuel frowned. His well was 20 yards in the opposite direction. Been dry for a month. Mary walked to where she had pointed, knelt again. placed both palms flat against the earth. "Here," she whispered. Samuel fetched his shovel, broke through the frost-hard ground where the child indicated. 3 feet down, water bubbled up clear and cold. His cattle crowded around the new source within hours, their desperate thirst finally satisfied. Word spread through town by afternoon. Jake Morrison, the blacksmith, rode out to see for himself. His face darkened when he spotted Celia mending clothes near the barn. "You harboring runaways, Samuel?" Samuel continued chopping wood, each swing precise and measured. "Harboring neighbors." Jake spat in the dirt. "That what you call it?" "That's what I call it." Mary emerged from the barn carrying fresh eggs. She moved past Jake without looking up, her small hands steady despite his glare. Jake mounted his horse. "Town's gonna hear about this." Samuel set down his axe, met Jake's stare directly. Figured they would. The blacksmith rode away trailing dust and disapproval. That evening, Celia sat by Samuel's fire. Mary slept curled on a blanket nearby. The child's breathing was soft and even, the first peaceful rest she had known in weeks. "Her gift," Celia said quietly. "It's why we had to run." Samuel waited. "People want to use her, make money from what she can do." Celia's voice carried old pain. "They don't care if it kills her." The fire popped. Sparks danced up the chimney. "How long since you felt safe?" Samuel asked. Celia considered the question. "Can't remember." Samuel added another log to the flames. "Well, you're safe here." Celia looked at him then. Really looked. Searching for the lie that usually hid behind such promises. She found only quiet certainty. Outside, the wind carried new sounds. Horses approaching in the distance, voices calling across the frozen ground. Samuel reached for his rifle. The peaceful moment shattered like thin ice. Mary stirred on her blanket. Celia gathered the child close. The horses grew louder, closer. Samuel checked his weapon, made sure it was loaded. The gift that had saved his cattle would now test whether mercy was stronger than fear. The horses belonged to Deputy Crawford and 2 strangers. Their badges gleamed silver in the morning light. Samuel met them at his gate, rifle loose in his hands. Crawford dismounted slowly. His smile never reached his eyes. "Morning, Samuel. Heard you had some excitement with water." Ground gave up what it was hiding. The deputy nodded toward the barn. "Mind if we take a look at your new well?" Samuel stepped aside. Let them pass. Watched Crawford's eyes sweep the property like a hawk hunting mice. Mary knelt by the water source. Her small hands cupped the clear flow. She looked up when the men approached. Her face went still as stone. "Remarkable," Crawford murmured. "Child found this herself?" Samuel's grip tightened on his rifle. "Lucky guess." One stranger whispered something to Crawford. The deputy's smile widened. "We'd like to speak with the woman and girl. Official business. They're under my protection." Crawford's hand rested on his pistol. "Wouldn't want to interfere with the law, would you, Samuel?" The morning air grew thick, heavy with unspoken threats. Celia appeared in the barn doorway. Her shoulders were straight, her chin lifted despite the fear in her eyes. "I'm here," she said quietly. Crawford tipped his hat. "Ma'am, need to ask some questions about your travels." "We're heading north. Nothing more to tell." The deputy studied her face, searching for cracks in her composure. "See, we got word about a missing woman and child. Valuable property, you might say." His voice carried false sympathy. "Owners are mighty concerned." Mary moved closer to her. "Mother." The water continued flowing from the ground where she had knelt. "We're free," Celia said. Crawford nodded slowly. "Course you are, ma'am. Just need to verify that with the proper authorities." Samuel stepped forward. "You got papers?" "Working on it." Crawford mounted his horse. "Be back soon with everything, official and proper." The three men rode away. Their dust lingered in the air long after the hoofbeats faded. That afternoon, Jake Morrison returned. His face was grim, but his manner had changed. He carried a bucket of grain for Samuel's chickens, heard Crawford was sniffing around. Samuel accepted the grain. News travels fast. Jake glanced toward the barn where Mary played with a wooden doll Celia had carved. My horses were dying, couldn't find water nowhere. Samuel waited. Child, saved them. Jake's voice was rough with admission. Pointed to a spot behind my shop. Water was there, clear and cold. The two men stood in silence, the weight of debt and obligation settling between them. Crawford's been asking questions in town, Jake continued, about rewards, about people willing to look the other way. Samuel's jaw tightened. How many takers? More than I hoped. Fewer than he wanted. Mary's laughter carried across the yard. She was teaching Celia's doll to dance. Her joy was bright against the gathering shadows. They can't stay here, Jake said quietly. Where are they gonna go? Jake had no answer. Just shook his head and rode away. That evening, Celia sat beside Samuel on his porch. Mary slept inside, exhausted from a day of play and worry. Time you told me the truth, Samuel said. Celia's hands folded in her lap, her fingers twisted together like prayer. My husband was a Pinkerton detective, Thomas Reed. Her voice was barely audible. He was investigating water rights in Colorado. Men were stealing land, killing for it. The wind picked up, carried the scent of distant storms. They murdered him for what he knew, made it look like an accident. Tears ran silent down her cheeks. I took his evidence, ran with Mary before they could finish the job. Samuel absorbed this, the weight of her burden settling on his shoulders too. The water company, she continued. They got men everywhere, deputies, judges, anyone who can be bought. Crawford, Celia nodded. Soon as Mary showed her gift, word spread. They want her. Want to use what she can do to find water, make themselves rich. Samuel understood now. The child wasn't just gifted. She was a weapon, a tool that could reshape the territory's future. Evidence still exist? Celia touched a small pouch at her waist. Everything Thomas died for. The next day brought more visitors. Men in expensive suits claiming to represent mining interests. They spoke of legal documents, of property rights and supernatural abilities. Mary hid behind the barn while they talked, her small body pressed against the weathered wood. Samuel listened to their offers, their threats disguised as warnings, their promises of wealth and protection. When they left, he found Mary by the new well. She was crying quietly, her tears falling into the water she had found. They want to take me away. Samuel knelt beside her. Not while I'm breathing. But they got papers, got the law. Samuel looked at the clear water flowing from the ground, at this miracle the child had given him. Sometimes the law ain't right. Sometimes decent folks got to stand against it. Mary wiped her eyes. Mama says I'm cursed. Your mama's wrong. Samuel's voice was firm. You're blessed. Question is, whether the world deserves your blessing. That night, Crawford returned with a larger group. 8 men this time, all armed, all determined. They made camp at the edge of Samuel's property, close enough to watch, far enough to avoid immediate confrontation. Samuel cleaned his rifle, checked his ammunition, counted the rounds he would need. Celia packed their few belongings, prepared for another flight into darkness. But Mary stood at the window, watching the men who wanted to cage her gift. I'm tired of running, she whispered. Samuel looked at the child, at the strength growing in her small frame. The water she had found still flowed, clear and cold and endless. Tomorrow would bring the reckoning. Tonight, they would prepare for, where Crawford arrived at dawn with official papers. His smile was sharp as winter wind. Behind him rode men in business suits carrying leather satchels and iron certainty. Got everything legal now, Samuel. He held up documents stamped with territorial seals. Child's been declared property of the Colorado Water Development Company. Mother, too, as an accessory. Samuel studied the papers through his window. The seals looked real, the signatures bold and authoritative. Supernatural abilities make her valuable beyond measure, one suit explained. Companies prepared to compensate you for your trouble. Mary pressed against Celia's side. Her small hands trembled like autumn leaves. Samuel set the papers on his table. Didn't invite the men inside. Give you till noon, Crawford said. Then we collect what's legally ours. The horses kicked up dust as they rode toward town. The cloud hung in the air like a burial shroud. Celia clutched the evidence pouch at her waist. Thomas died for nothing. Not yet, he didn't. Samuel found Jake Morrison shoeing horses behind his shop. The blacksmith looked up when Samuel approached. His face was grim with knowledge. Heard they got papers? Samuel nodded. Official-looking ones. Jake set down his hammer, wiped sweat from his forehead with a dirty rag. Been doing some checking. Crawford's been sending telegrams, lots of them, to Colorado. The forge fire crackled between them, orange flames dancing like devils. Man named Hutchins runs that water company. Got his fingers in half the territory's politics. Jake's voice dropped low. Word is he killed a Pinkerton detective last year. Made it look accidental. Samuel's blood chilled. Thomas Reed. Jake nodded slowly. You know that name? I know that name. The blacksmith pulled a telegram from Mio. His apron. The paper was wrinkled from secret handling. Intercepted this yesterday. Crawford's been reporting every move the child makes, every drop of water she finds. Samuel read the message. His jaw tightened with each word. They ain't planning to keep her alive long, Jake said quietly. Soon as she finds what they need, she becomes a liability. The hammer lay forgotten, on the anvil. Two men stared at evidence of planned murder. Sheriff know about this? Jake shook his head. Sheriff's in Denver, won't be back for a week. Samuel folded the telegram, tucked it inside his shirt. You willing to ride for help? Already saddled my horse. That afternoon the town gathered to watch the spectacle. Men, women, and children lined the main street as if expecting a parade. Crawford led his procession with ceremonial pride. 8 armed men flanked a covered wagon. Chains rattled in the wagon bed. Samuel met them at his gate. Rifle cradled in, his arms like a sleeping child. Time's up, Samuel. Reckon it is. Crawford dismounted. His hand rested on his pistol grip. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Mary appeared in the doorway. Celia's arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. The child's eyes held no fear now, only quiet determination. I'll go, Mary said. Celia's grip tightened. No. Better than watching Mr. Samuel die for us. Samuel turned to face the child. Her courage shamed every adult present. Nobody's dying today. Nobody's going anywhere they don't choose. Crawford laughed. Big words from one man against 8. Not one man. Jake Morrison rode up leading the real sheriff and 6 deputized townsmen. Their badges caught the afternoon sun. Sheriff Bennett dismounted slowly. His weathered face was granite hard. Heard you boys been playing with forged documents. Crawford's smile faltered. These papers are legitimate. Bennett examined the seals, held them up to the light. Funny thing about territorial stamps. Got a special watermark. This one don't have it. The business suits shifted nervously. Their leather satchels suddenly seemed heavier. More interesting, Bennett continued. Got a telegram from Denver. Colorado Water Development Company dissolved last month. Fraud investigation. Crawford's hand moved toward his gun. Bennett's moved faster. Wouldn't if I were you. The standoff stretched like a bowstring. Men on both sides calculated odds and consequences. Mary stepped forward. Her small voice cut through the tension. The water you want don't exist. Every eye turned to the child. I can find water, but the places you're looking, they're empty, Dried up years ago. Her voice carried terrible certainty. That's why my daddy died. He found out you've been selling. Claims to dead land. Crawford's face went pale. The business suits exchanged panicked glances. Child's lying, one suit stammered. Mary knelt and placed her palms on the ground. The same gesture Samuel had seen a dozen times. Nothing here but dust and bones, she whispered. The wind picked up, carried the scent of distant storms and buried secrets. Bennett stepped closer to Crawford. You're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and suspicion of murder. Crawford's hand jerked toward his weapon. Bennett's fist connected with his jaw before the gun cleared leather. The business suits raised their hands in surrender, their empire of lies crumbling like sandcastles. As the prisoners were loaded into wagons, Mary walked to Samuel's side. Is it over? Samuel looked at the child who had saved his life, his land, his soul. This part is. Celia approached slowly, the evidence pouch still clutched in her hands. Thomas can rest now, she said quietly. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of justice and redemption, but in the distance, new dust clouds approached. More riders heading their way. Samuel's hand found his rifle again. Some victories were only temporary. The water Mary had found still flowed clear and cold, but the thirst for power never ended. The dust clouds brought 3 riders at sunset. Not lawmen this time. Bounty hunters with dead eyes and steady hands. Samuel watched them approach from his porch. His rifle lay across his knees. The metal was cold against his palms. The lead rider dismounted 20 yards from the cabin. His coat was black as sin. His smile was worse. Evening, friend. Heard you got something that belongs to us. Samuel remained seated. Don't believe I do. Little girl with a special talent, worth considerable money to the right people. The man's hand rested on his gun butt. His companions flanked him like wolves. Girls under my protection. The bounty hunter chuckled. 1 man against 3. Poor odds. Samuel's dog emerged from the barn. Old Rex, loyal as sunrise. The animal sensed danger, growled low in his throat. Call off your mutt, the bounty hunter warned. Samuel remained silent. Rex padded closer to the strangers. The bounty hunter drew his pistol. Fired once. Rex yelped, fell. Blood pooled in, the dirt. Samuel's coat sleeve caught the spray as he knelt beside his dying companion. The wool turned dark red. Rex's eyes found his master's face one last time. Next bullet's for you, the bounty hunter said, unless you're reasonable. Samuel stood slowly. Blood dripped from his coat onto the frozen ground. Reasonable men don't shoot dogs. Reasonable men mind their own business. The cabin door creaked. Mary appeared in the doorway. Her small face was pale but determined. It's me you want. The bounty hunter's smile widened. Smart child. Mary stepped onto the porch. Celia tried to follow, but Mary shook her head. I'll come peaceful. Just don't hurt anyone else. Samuel moved between Mary and the gunman. Child's not going anywhere. You willing to die for her? Samuel's answer was silence, but his grip on the rifle spoke volumes. The bounty hunter raised his weapon, aimed at Samuel's chest. Thunder of hoofbeats broke the standoff. Jake Morrison rode hard with 6 townsmen behind him. Sheriff Bennett brought up the rear. Drop your weapons, Bennett commanded. The bounty hunters found themselves surrounded. Their advantage evaporated, like morning mist. Got warrants for these men, Bennett announced. Murder, kidnapping, conspiracy. The lead bounty hunter spat in the dirt. We're legally authorized recovery agents. Not anymore, you ain't. Bennett held up official papers, real ones this time. Colorado authorities issued arrest warrants this morning. Seems you boys been busy. The bounty hunters surrendered without further resistance. Their black coats seemed less menacing in shackles. As the prisoners were loaded into wagons, Samuel knelt beside Rex. The old dog's breathing was shallow but steady. Mary touched Samuel's shoulder. He's not dying. bullet grazed his shoulder. Samuel looked closer. The child was right. Rex's tail thumped weakly against the ground. How'd you know? Mary's eyes held ancient wisdom. Same way I know water. Some things just speak to me. Spring arrived like a whispered promise. The harsh winter finally released its grip on the territory. Green shoots pushed through thawing earth. Samuel's ranch flourished. The water Mary had found never ran dry. His cattle grew fat and content. Celia tended a small garden behind the cabin. Her hands, once trembling with fear, now worked soil with quiet confidence. Mary played with the town children who came to learn her gift. She taught them to listen to the earth's hidden voices. The corruption investigation spread across 3 territories. Dozens of officials faced charges. The evidence Celia carried had toppled an empire of greed. Samuel sat on his porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky crimson. Celia joined him with 2 cups of coffee. Peaceful, she observed. Samuel nodded. For now. Rex dozed at their feet. His shoulder had healed perfectly. The scar was barely visible beneath his fur. Mary's been asking about staying permanent, Celia said quietly. What did you tell her? That it's not just her decision. Samuel understood. The child had found home, but home was fragile as spring ice. She belongs here, he said finally. Celia's hand found his, their fingers intertwined like fence posts anchoring against storm. So do you. The admission hung between them, heavy with possibility. Summer brought visitors, not lawmen or bounty hunters this time, farmers and ranchers seeking Mary's help finding water. She guided them all with patient kindness. The town prospered. Wells were dug. Crops flourished. Children learned to read the land's secret language. Samuel built a proper schoolhouse. Mary taught other children her gift while Celia instructed reading and arithmetic. Life settled into rhythms as reliable as sunrise, until the day Mary knelt by the apple tree where Samuel had first found them. The tree was heavy with fruit now, sweet and red and perfect. She pressed her ear to the ground. Her face went still, as winter pawned. Samuel approached slowly. What is it? Mary looked up. Her eyes held terrible knowledge. The water's going away again, Mr. Samuel. We'll have to leave soon. Samuel's smile froze on his lips. The apple he'd been reaching for remained unpicked. In the distance, dust clouds appeared on the horizon. New riders approaching the town. The cycle was beginning again. And that is all to the story for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.